Hello and welcome to Impact the Borough, a podcast from the Greensboro Chamber of Commerce. I'm Brent Christensen, the President and CEO of the Chamber. Each week we'll highlight what we're doing to start and grow businesses, create quality jobs, and develop our workforce. We'll also check in with our community partners to share inspiring stories and important information from across our community. This podcast is brought to you by Truliant Federal Credit Union, a modern, mission-driven financial institution focused on the needs of its members, the businesses it serves, and our community. With 5 locations in Guilford County, including a dedicated commercial lending office at Friendly Center and a highly rated mobile banking app, Truliant makes it their business to help you grow yours. Visit Truliant.org for more information.
Hi there, and welcome to the Launch podcast. As Brent said, we want to focus on what we are doing to start and grow businesses and tell inspiring stories of Greensboro to the world. I'm Kelli, and I'm a board member of Launch Greensboro. In case you don't remember, Launch is a program that accelerates growth for entrepreneurs starting businesses in the Greensboro Triad area by providing education, mentoring, and access to capital. And today we have a really exciting episode because we are going to be talking to several members of the board. And our hope is that we give you an idea of how much energy and innovation the board brings to the program. And also joining us today is Jenn Hensel, who's the assistant director. Jenn.
Hello, Kelli. Thanks for being here. And we are so excited to showcase some of our board of advisors to the community. I am the assistant director of Launch Greensboro. I've been with the organization almost 4 years now, and I run our programs. So our mini accelerator program, our traditional accelerator program, boot camps, any ways that we maneuver to support entrepreneurs in the area is a lot of kind of the work that I do. And I'm always thrilled when I get to interact with our board members in some of that work, right? So a lot of the work I do with our board kind of centers around mentorship. So I'm excited to introduce Sudhakar Puvvada, who has been on a mentor committee with me to introduce himself and tell us a little bit about your background. Sudhakar.
I'm Sudhakar Puvvada. I am a chemical engineer with a PhD from MIT. And through my career, I've been involved in various different roles, primarily in an R&D kind of role, innovation kind of role. I worked at companies, large companies like Unilever, working on various products, various innovations. I moved to Greensboro around 6-7 years ago with the mandate of setting up a global innovation center for VF. Around 2 years ago, I sort of changed paths and I actually became an entrepreneur. And me and a couple of friends started an entity called Dreamcatcher Innovation Labs. And a part of our goal is to bring entrepreneurship, bring innovation, help companies innovate better. In addition, I also am a chief operating officer of another startup called Indigo Mill Designs. And this is in the space of, we have a novel technology on indigo dyeing, which has huge sustainability benefits. This whole entrepreneurial journey has become very, very infectious. I keep getting lots of ideas and keep exploring various other, entities. And it's amazing how infectious this can be. I'm originally from India, and through my career, I have moved around different parts of the country, different parts of the world. I think I pretty much have lived in one place for no longer than around 3 to 4 years. But coming to North Carolina, I've actually considered it home. I've been now here for 7 years, and I don't think my wife would love me if I were to move from here. So generally, I think I've enjoyed Greensboro. It's been one of the places that I've felt most welcome right from the day I sort of moved in here. I got involved in the community and now feel this is home, feel this is where I want to spend the rest of my life.
I love that. It's pretty obvious why you are on the board, given your love of entrepreneurialism, but can you tell us how long you've been on the board and what parts you're involved in or passionate about?
Okay. I have been on the board, I think, for 4 years, maybe a little longer than that, 5 years. Um, and and that time has sort of flown by very, very quickly because it's been very exciting. I am the part that I've been actually very, very active through the maybe the last 4 years was in the mentorship area. I have mentored a variety of different companies, and that's actually very energizing because of the diversity of companies. I think I've mentored a company in data analytics, someone who's done personal care products. I'm working with someone in the nanotechnology space, someone who's done some really amazing designs using plants, someone who's been in the catering business. And so this diversity of companies is very, very energizing to see the passion, to see the love of, their love transforming into real entities. I've also been involved with Capital Connects to some extent in terms of bringing in, various companies, selecting the companies. And once again, it's amazing how much energy there is in our area.
Yeah, absolutely. From those mentorships and that involvement, are there specific trends or businesses that you've seen that you're particularly excited about?
I think overall, if I were to see, specifically within our area, I think over the last many years we've started to see companies that are big, that have bigger ambitions, that are more transformative in nature. Probably 3 to 4 years ago, I think we were seeing companies that are a little bit smaller, a little bit more mom and pop kind of this one, but I'm starting to see much more technology-oriented companies, much more scalable businesses. Seeing also overall in terms of trends, I think sustainability is something that is, I think, starting to play a big role, and sustainability across a number of spectrums, not just in a variety of industries, whether it be old traditional industries like oil and gas, textiles. So we're seeing a lot of that. I'm also seeing, I think, a space in the technology side with IoT kind of applications, with battery technologies, and I think the last bit is you're also seeing a lot more novel thinking, new business models, like especially in the healthcare space. We're seeing some very, very unique healthcare-oriented companies.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, before I ask you more questions, because I have many for you, let's give Chad a minute to get us caught up on who he is. So Chad, could you please introduce yourself to us as well?
Yeah, my pleasure. Thanks, Kelly. So I'm Chad Oakley. I am a Greensborian. I was born and raised here, and just absolutely love this place. I stayed local for college, or local-ish. I went to North Carolina State University in Raleigh, North Carolina, and then left for about 10 years. I moved to Philadelphia, where I started working in consulting. I joined Deloitte Consulting in their Philadelphia practice and was there for 3 years. And then I attended the Wharton School at the University of Pennsylvania for my master's in business. And then from there, moved to Boston and went to work for another consulting firm called Bain and Company, and worked with organizations from a growth strategy perspective and from an operations perspective. And then I decided I wanted to return home to Greensboro, which is just awesome. And the greatest sale of my life was convincing my wife, who I met at Wharton, to move south with me to Greensboro, North Carolina. She had lived in San Francisco for 5 years, and Boston, and all these other places. And it was the greatest moment of my life, and it turns out it was the greatest moment of hers. And we have loved being in Greensboro ever since. I came here to join Charles Harris, which is an executive search firm. At the time, I started our strategy and corporate development practice, and we're fortunate that has now grown to be the largest strategy and corporate development recruiting practice in the United States across any executive search firm. And now I serve as the chief executive officer of that business. So that's me.
Very, very awesome. And then will you tell us how long you've been on the board and what was your interest in serving on the board?
Yes. So I think I'm pretty similar to Sudhakar on that front. I think I'm about 4 years in to my time on the board. And, I will tell you, great entrepreneurs, I don't want to say use great, but entrepreneurs love giving back to other entrepreneurs. I found that consistently throughout my travels in my life, is that people that do this want other people to be successful too. And they care, they really do care. And the other thing is, look, selfishly, entrepreneurs are lifelong learners. By their nature, they are lifelong learners, and I get as much out of this experience as the people that I'm interfacing with get out of this experience. So the learnings for me are just as compelling as the learnings for other individuals. And so it's a two-way street. If I can participate and help someone else, I assure you they are helping me as well. Even if they don't know they are, they most definitely are. So it's a wonderful experience on both sides of that equation.
Yeah, I agree. And from the businesses that you are seeing, are there trends or specific areas of business that you're excited to see?
Yeah, so actually, Sudhakar kind of stole a page out of my book on this front, because one of the things that I get a chance to participate in, and I've done a lot of as a part of the advisory board, is our demo days. And I will tell you, there's no better experience when you're on this advisory board, but also just an entrepreneur in general, to see other entrepreneurs stand up in front of a crowd and talk about their business and talk about their passions. It's the best part of what I get a chance to do on the board. And, when I first started in this, to Sudhakar's point, I saw a lot more professional services oriented type things. And listen, I'm in professional services, so I love professional services. But to Sudhakar's point, it's hard to scale those businesses. And so there was kind of a limited vision for some of those. But more recently, we have seen a lot of technology-oriented businesses that can absolutely be scaled in a very compelling way. And we're also seeing some pretty unique things. Sudhakar talked about things in the battery space, which are really, really cool and cutting edge at this particular stage. One of our entrepreneurs right now that I'm having a chance to work closely with has a drone-based real estate business that's based on our research, might be one of 4 in the United States with a technology that is as cutting edge as it gets and is getting a lot of attention from leading entities. And so there's some pretty cool cutting edge stuff that we're doing here in Greensboro that is very compelling.
Absolutely, I agree. Since you talked about Demo Day, I want to take a minute just to tell everyone they have an opportunity to participate and join Demo Day coming up on May 24th. But we'll talk a little bit more about that later. I would like to hear from both of you how you've seen the landscape evolve since you've been here. Chad, for you, since you've been back here, and also Sudhakar, since you've been here. And you've said a little bit about, kind of the smaller concept companies coming through, and as the years have gone by, that we're seeing these more scalable opportunities. I really attribute that to more opportunity here, more involvement, and also the programming at Launch. I think people have recognized that the program that Launch offers, the programming is not just for sort of the small concepts, that it really can support these bigger visions, bigger plans. But how have you seen, this landscape evolve over the years in your experience?
Okay. In terms of companies, first and foremost, I think in the beginning, we were seeing more geographically closer to Greensboro companies. There were not that many, I think, companies coming from further away. In the last few years, we're seeing on a regular basis, whether it be at Capital Connects or whether it be any of the Launch Greensboro programs, companies coming from the RTP area, from the Charlotte area, from the Winston-Salem area, so much broader geographical coverage, which is a good sign, which indicates our program is recognized even at a broader audience. Second, also, I think, starting to see companies that are, I think, some very, very novel kind of products and product solutions. The one that sort of comes very quickly is M-Pasa, this whole area, this sort of small, I think he was a student when he started this, but he got a really wonderful idea of, based on the trends of people wanting to have, dairy-free cheeses. And he developed this product in-house, and it's wonderful to see that sort of success as it sort of goes forward. And this is a great example of potentially a very, very scalable idea and on very trend-driven market.
Absolutely.
But similarly, you have other companies. I want to sort of give sort of a shout out for Minerva Lithium, which is focusing on this whole space of lithium extraction in the mining industry. I mean, who would have thought that you would take a very, very traditional, old-fashioned mining industry and sort of bring in nanotechnology to transform and then promote green energy as a result of that. So it's this kind of transformation, I think, that has sort of come up. And I'm hopeful going forward that we will get more of these sort of novel ideas. Once again, our universities can be real powerhouses for bringing in some very, very disruptive ideas and disruptive concepts.
Agree. I think some of the best ideas that we have seen, and an example of that is Matt. The innovation starts when they're in college, and like his demo day presentation blew me away. And I mean, I ended up also doing some work with him after, and was just so impressed with him and his innovation and his ability, like his vision, really the way that he brought it to life. So totally agree. Chad, what do you think? What about you?
Well, first thing I want to say is I happen to be a judge on that demo day when Matt won for Impasta. And I can remember his presentation this very minute. And I can also remember how good his sauce was. I mean, it was just fantastic. And I love cheese. And when I tasted it, I was like, how can this not actually have real cheese in it? It's amazing how good it tastes. So, and the other thing is how I remember distinctly recalling how hard the decision was, because we saw amazing businesses that day. Mm-hmm. So Matt won, and he was deserving to win, but there was 4 other businesses there that we were like, golly, they all kind of tied for first. And Matt squeaked out the victory. But it was just so great. I don't know if I can say a lot more than Sudhakar said. I mean, here's what I'd say is success breeds success. And I think the program has a lot of success stories. And go back in time, the word hadn't maybe gotten out quite as much, but now you see, we've got some real success stories of companies that have come through the program and have really had some pretty big impact in the world. And suddenly you've got other companies saying, gosh, well, when I first heard about this, I didn't think that this was an incubator kind of group that could really take my business, my unique technology, my platform to the next level. But now I see that they can, based on what I'm seeing from these other entities. And I think, success breeds success on that front.
Yeah, agreed. I've been back 7 years, and over those 7 years, I've really seen a shift towards having much more of an embrace of innovation across the board in Greensboro, downtown, just people moving here that are excited about innovation and supportive of innovation. And then I think, when we start to create that kind of community and then have programming that supports it and lifts it up, I think those things go hand in hand. So I've seen that definitely over the last 10 years, but I would say specifically in the last 5. And I think so much of that does have to do with having a strong foundation for innovators to be able to, being an innovator and being an entrepreneur, both are challenging. And so all of the challenges, and I think going back, Chad, to what you said about, I think one of the reasons entrepreneurs want to give back is because that shared experience, what we all go through as entrepreneurs, no matter what type of business it is, you experience a lot of challenges, a lot of hurdles. And I think there's just a general spirit of wanting to encourage others because you've been there. And for me, and I'm sure similarly for you guys, when you mentor people and they're, echoing questions you've asked yourself, and going through things that you've been through, and you're able to say, no, this is totally normal. It's totally normal if everyone in your life thinks you're crazy and you feel like you just jumped off the side of a building. That means you're doing really, really well. I do think that is infectious. That spirit of giving back is infectious. So I do think that's one of the great things about this board, and the opportunity to be mentors, because I totally agree with you, Chad, that in my experience with mentoring, I always get so much from it. I always learn things. I always walk away feeling like that was I helping them or were they helping me? Like it just, and I stay in touch with those people and I love seeing them grow. So I definitely think that's a big part of it. Let's talk a little bit about what you guys think about what we want to see moving forward in Greensboro. So we've talked about how we've seen it evolve, and here we are now. What does it look like for you looking forward?
One thing I wanted to add in terms of the trends is I'm also seeing a lot of actually business model innovations that are coming up, and companies are sort of using technology to create some very, very unique business models, even in the service industry. So I think that trend is another something that's sort of seen. Going forward, I would actually like, much more communal kind of thing. As we talked about, success breeds success, and entrepreneurs want to help entrepreneurs. I feel over the last years, we've been trying to create that sort of community. And going forward, I want to see them sort of coming together. I want to see a place where people can run into each other, be able to sort of over a drink or something like that, share ideas and then create new opportunities. I would expect, once again, the Launch Greensboro team has been amazing. And I would actually like if, the team can grow a little bit and support more entrepreneurs. At this point in time, I think they're probably reaching their limit of capacity. And one way to sort of encourage that is by growing the team.
Absolutely.
And I also think as first launch capital comes into the, more and more first launch capital funds, entrepreneurship and funds entrepreneurs, that itself can become a self-fulfilling cycle as these companies succeed and bringing in more money and then actually creating more opportunities for companies to sort of set up here. And even I'm hoping actually some companies move from other parts of the country to Greensboro because it's such a wonderful place.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, since you were talking about having a place, a community, Jenn, do you want to talk a little bit about our exciting move coming up?
Absolutely. So we just announced this month that we are actually partnering with Transform GSO and moving our space and all of our programs over to their expanded location. So we are thrilled. We have hosted a co-working space for quite a while. And I think what we realized is what's in the best interest of the community and the community of entrepreneurs that we serve is to build as strong as ecosystem as possible. And as Sudhakar mentioned, a lot of that is in place. It is in everyday occurrences. It is in collaboration that occurs thanks to proximity. And so we will be shutting down our CoLab co-working space, which is going to be bittersweet, and encourage all of our members to move to the new co-working space, which is just down the street, just at South Elm. And so, yeah, it's really exciting for us. We believe that we'll really be able to create and build on the momentum that we have. We're really good at programs. Entrepreneurs love coming to us for services and support and education and mentoring. And Transform GSO is really amazing at real estate and co-working and creating place. And so by combining our strengths, the people who win in the end are the entrepreneurs who get to enjoy the best of both worlds and meet each other on a more regular basis. So yeah, that is probably our most exciting news. And we will talk more about that in a future episode. Teaser.
Yes, I love it. Chad, what about you?
First of all, I'm super excited about the new space. That space is so awesome. It is perfect for entrepreneurship. It is perfect for collaboration, and it's perfect for that. Having over a drink, right? Sharing some war stories, as Sudhakar mentioned. I mean, that it's going to be awesome. I am really, really excited about that. One thing that I want to see more of, I want to see more collaboration with our university system. We actually have a world-class university system here in the Triad area. with some great facilities. I had a chance to tour the relatively new and continually expanding Joint School of Nanoscience and Nanotechnology. This is between UNCG and North Carolina A&T. It is world class. You're not going to find another facility in the world that is as it's on par with any other world class facility. And some of the research assets they have in that facility are truly, there's a couple of microscopes that they have in there that truly, there's 2 in the United States, and there's one of them here in Greensboro, North Carolina. They're that specialized. I also, so those, and by the way, those assets and resources, I believe, are underutilized. So if there's a nanoscience business out there, a nanoscience technology oriented business that wants support and needs an infrastructure, boy, do we have it in Greensboro, North Carolina. Whatever you need, we've got it here for you. And so those businesses, I think, are very specialized. And then the second thing that I'd love to see a little bit more of is more collaboration with the technology transfer offices within some of these institutions. So North Carolina A&T has a world-class technology transfer office, and they've got some really cool things in there that are just looking for the right entrepreneur to grab a hold of it and take it to the next level. And you combine the world-class academic institutions that we have here in Greensboro, along with this world-class program, you add an entrepreneur to it, my gosh, look out, like, sky's the limit. So it's a lot of cool things there that can happen.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. So we talked a little bit about some things coming up for launch, one of them being this exciting move. But we also want to just spend a few minutes talking about the fund. Both of you are somewhat involved. Jenn, obviously you as well, but looking at what we're looking ahead to do with the fund, Sudhakar, you were talking about how that really starts to create that cycle. What other kinds of things, when you think about how the fund can benefit the entrepreneurial community, what things are you looking forward to?
So one of the biggest challenges for entrepreneur is, they have a great idea. They want to be able to they have big dreams, but a major challenge is access to funds. And I think with the launch of First Launch Capital, that access to funds is actually very, very helpful, because now the entrepreneurs get that access. But it's just not the funds. I think the connections and Launch Greensboro itself can provide to entrepreneurs is another major asset in terms of the introductions that they can serve, the connections to other funding agencies around the country. And there are quite a number of times when First Launch partners with other funding agencies, and there's a co-funding that goes on. So I think this creates this, very virtuous cycle where the companies can grow faster, and that increases the confidence level. And we probably are likely to get other funding agents from around the country interested in our community. I mean, we went from a place, with almost no funding agencies in our city, and we're getting the first one, and having already funded 5 different companies. The hope is now this becomes a very virtuous cycle, and every year we double the number of companies that we can fund.
Absolutely. Jenn, anything you want to add about the fund?
Yeah, I think what I'm most excited about the fund is the way it really, it's like the final piece of the puzzle that was kind of missing when I thought about the full spectrum of services that we can provide and that our ecosystem can provide, right? And when you look now at the full scope of our services, we can take an entrepreneur really from any stage, including idea stage to launch, to growth, to seed funding, to scaling. We have co-working space available, right? Like, there's just this incredible breadth of services that are interconnected that allow someone to build relationships that are deep and have long-lasting effect with us as an organization, with funders that we know, right? So I really think that filling the gap of what was missing before and giving people that first $50,000 to $75,000 in capital to just get over the hump, to just really get it started, right? To be able to quit their day job so that they can actually make this happen. So one of the other pieces that I'm most excited about, and I have a bit of separation from the fund as our executive vice president of entrepreneurship, my boss, Luann Flanders Stack, really manages the fund, is watching, being on the other side and watching and hearing from companies go through the due diligence process. So for some, because we're a seed fund, we're the first opportunity they get to prepare and be questioned and go through the full due diligence process and understand what that angel investing world is all about. So they can take their learnings and their process and apply it with other funds to really elevate their success in those meetings, right? And so I think that's cool. But the other piece that Sudhakar hinted at, and I think really gets Chad excited too, is utilizing it as a recruitment tool. So we want to serve entrepreneurs who are here in our community, but we also want to prove the validity of moving here because of the number of resources we have and the super livability of this community, that using that seed fund as a bit of a carrot to encourage people to come here, set up shop here. We have the workforce, we have the technology, we have the innovation, we have huge corporations, which allows for another layer of interesting innovation that can happen in a community of our size. Really encourage people to move from some of the bigger metro areas to a smaller mid-sized city. You can't beat Greensboro in terms of what we have to offer, and the seed fund is like a start of a recruitment tool for that. So I'm really excited about the fund and the future applicants to that, and where that can grow from here.
I really have seen a trend of people no longer looking simply just for investment, but really wanting strategic investment and strategic advisors. And so, historically, I feel like people were thinking about that as two separate camps, my investors and my strategic advisors, and now really looking for that to be holistic and in the same place. And really, that's what I love so much about the Launch Fund, is that, that that's so inherent in what it is and what it's about. And that often, there has been a lot of networking connections, and ongoing will be a lot of that as part of that investment. And I think that's, super valuable. Chad, anything to add about the fund?
I would just say, Kelly, I completely agree with you. Entrepreneurs don't want money, they want smart money. And smart money is what we offer, right? Whatever your need, we've got it. We can help, right? And we've got the resources to fund it as well. So I just can't reiterate that enough. We've got smart money that will not only help to fund your business and your dreams, but to fund it in a really smart, additive way.
Yeah. Agreed. And we've touched on it several times on the accelerator program and how it has continued to grow, and frankly, I think improve upon itself and be able to serve, companies that are in a more scalable place. I also want to make sure we talk about sustain, which is when people have, quote unquote, graduated from the program, they become a part of this alumni group, that all of the people that have been through the program in the different years become part of Sustain, which is an ongoing group that they can be a part of, that does create that support system that I think so often entrepreneurs, it's hard to have that, because a lot of times you're working solo or you're a little bit siloed. And so I think having that built-in community, Sustain community, I know from speaking to several of the members that has been a real lifeline for them when the programs are over. And that's definitely something that, as the board, we are involved in making sure we stay in touch with those people and help ongoing, support the businesses once they have left the program and really get into the real work of building their business. Jenn, anything you want to add about programming or Sustain before we?
Yeah, I think the call out for Sustain is really nice, because it is a component that doesn't get talked about as much as our, accelerator program or our pitch competition, but it is that continued service, that continued relationship, not just with us as an organization, but much more expanded to our full board, which the listeners can hear is full of incredibly smart and connected and good people. So to have an alumni group where they can stay together, we offer what I think of as really responsive services to them. For our other programs, they're not regimented. I'm not sure the word I should use, but they're set. We have an agenda, we have a flow. And what we do with the sustain group is much more responsive. So we're much more, kind of in the world of customer discovery with our sustain. We're constantly asking them, where are you at? What's going on? What do you need? And creating whatever that program might be, right? And so I kind of think of it as, in so many other fields, industries have continuing education credits. And it's important to keep your workforce ready and on top of trends and learning, and right. And so in entrepreneurship, that has to be self-seeking. If you want to be the lifelong learner that Chad talked about, you have to find where to do that. And we offer that in some way. So if you're having trouble with sales, you send me an email that says, I am stumbling over X, Y, and Z. And I hear that randomly from another couple of people, and I build something that responds to that. And that kind of responsiveness is, I think, really unique to our model. It is kind of done in small group settings. We do strategic networking for this group. So we're really putting them in front of key players and stakeholders in our community that isn't just kind of like general, like it's very much done to fill the gaps that they're self-identifying. So I think sustain is really fabulous. The integration that the board has with that program in terms of kind of having a few sustain members that you reach out to, and it's not in a formal mentorship way, but it's just in the way of building that relationship, is so meaningful to the entrepreneur, and it's meaningful to us in order to be responsive. And so going back to a little bit earlier conversation, we were talking about a couple of companies that Sudhakar and Chad and Kelli, you have all mentored, and how great they are and exciting. I think the last piece I want to kind of like close the loop on when I think about the full scope of our programs is what we see today. What's a trend for Launch Greensboro today that we didn't see 4 years ago, even when I started, was companies and entrepreneurs moving through our full pipeline with us and moving into multiple events with us. And so, you heard about Impasta, who came through from our idea launch. Like, that's how Matt walked in the door, was to pitch a totally different business model. And he has stayed with us through everything. His win at Demo Day put him on stage at Capital Connects, which is a larger audience of higher, caliber, like investor audience, right? And so he's been with us for literally everything. And you think of a couple other companies that you guys have mentioned, Minerva Lithium pitched and won at Capital Connects this past year, the 2-minute pitch. And so being able to see that full circle cycle of a company being able to move with us, with kind of a cohort, what it says to me is that they're using the services, they are executing on their learnings, and they're building on themselves. But it also says to me that our work allows for a full circleness that an ecosystem would require, right? So even, you think about the connection, Logistomatics, which is headquartered in former HQ, which is now transformed GSO, came to one of our programs and did Launch Lab Growth, and then pitched at Capital Connects. And then at this past Capital Connects was named Entrepreneur of the Year because they were just acquired by Saltwater Capital, right? And so you get to see all of this. And that, I think, is a new trend that we hope to see more of, that when we talk about the Capital Connect stage, we are simply recruiting now from North Carolina companies. And the majority of them are coming from within a 100-mile radius of us versus, 12, 15 years ago, a lot of those companies had to come from anywhere on the Eastern Seaboard to the Southeast, right? So those are just a couple trends that to me are really nice to watch and think about when we're talking about programs and services.
Absolutely. Really exciting. And I feel like if we haven't convinced you all to be involved at this point, then I don't know what to tell you. So here's how you can get involved. Like we said before, Demo Day is coming up on May 24th. It's going to be a virtual event, and you can check out our social for more details and to register to attend. To echo what all of us have talked about here, Demo Day is such a great way to see what happens at launch. It's a program where they, 14 weeks, they go through an accelerator, and it culminates in Demo Day where they pitch their business. Jenn is super involved in coaching the businesses on how to pitch, because to your earlier point, that's not something that most of us didn't learn how to do that in school. So it's such a valuable resource, and such a great way to really see the impact that launch has and see what launch is about. Also, we've talked a lot about mentorship, and if you're interested in being a mentor, we ongoing take applications for that. If you are interested, you can either reach out to Jenn directly or go to greensboro.org/mentorship. And typically that you serve for 3 months. So in the late spring or late fall, it's 3 months. And again, from what all three of us have said, it's a really amazing experience. We're also accepting applications for the fall growth program already. So you can certainly check us out on social for the link to that application. And while we're talking about social, we want you to follow us on social at Launch Greensboro on Instagram and LinkedIn, at Launch Greensboro on Twitter, and at Greensboro Entrepreneur on Facebook. So Chad, Sudhakar, Jenn, thank you guys so much. This was fun. I always start to say that I'm biased because of how much I love Greensboro and what Launch does, but I actually think the proof is in the pudding and I'm not biased. It's just the real deal. So I so enjoyed talking to you guys about it, and I appreciate the opportunity always to be involved.
This podcast is brought to you by Truliant Federal Credit Union, a modern, mission-driven financial institution focused on the needs of its members, the businesses it serves, and our community. With 5 locations in Guilford County, including a dedicated commercial lending office at Friendly Center and a highly rated mobile banking app, Truliant makes it their business to help you grow yours. Visit Truliant.org for more information. You can find all of our episodes on YouTube thanks to our video sponsor, North State. Make sure to subscribe so you'll get new episodes delivered to your device each week. You can follow us on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook at GSO Chamber. See you next time.